Hello, everyone. Welcome to your HR moment with Angela Hooper-Menifield. It's been a couple of weeks, and recently I have been asked some questions that I thought, you know what, some of these topics would make some really good lives because they may help some other people in similar dilemmas. So, today we are going to talk a little bit about relationships in the workplace. So, before I get started, I feel that it's only appropriate that I acknowledge that I have been guilty of such, okay? So, for people who know me and who have known me for a long time, they can attest to the fact that I have been amongst those who have, as the saying goes, got their money where they got their honey. Um, so let's talk a little bit about that though, right? Because what can happen is as coworkers are working together, and especially if they come up in the ranks together and they're more peer to peer, there typically isn't any policies about whether or not people date one another. And so as a result of that, friendships happen sometimes as, going on training assignments, traveling together, friendship turns into you look kind of cute, so do you. Next thing you know, people are dating. And so the first thing I would say is this every organization, uh, hello there, Principal Gordon, and that's all I'm going to say. You are terrible. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is always check your employee handbook. It is really important that you verify whether or not your organization has a policy regarding whether or not employees are allowed to date in the workplace. Because some organizations do have policies forbidding that. And if, of course, if you're found guilty of that, you could definitely lose your job. Now, there are other cases, such as the one that I had, that again, peer to peer, there was no policy against it. I'm laughing because y'all already know, you can tell by my face it didn't turn out like as well as it could have, right? So anyway, but here's the consequences when it's not even a policy. What happens when the relationship is over? How do we, as former partners, uh, mates, some of us live together, some of us got married, how do you still work together? And in my particular situation, it was actually probably very awkward, not so much for me, but for my ex-husband, because ultimately I became his supervisor's supervisor. And so I was like his supervisor 2 levels up. And now that doesn't violate the relative policy because technically at this time we were divorced, right? But I guess my point is it doesn't always make for a pleasant work environment. Now, recently I have, well, one can, Matthew, that is a really good point. One could leave. But, we both had really good jobs, right? Like I was a GS probably 13 at the time, he was a GS 12. And then ultimately I became a GS 15 and I wasn't leaving. So, uh, but I was a good supervisor, Matthew. I'd have to let you know that part, right? So we didn't have any issues. And he's actually still there. Actually, his last promotion I signed off on. So yay me. So what is this comment? Oh, thank you so much, Amira. I appreciate that. So it can just be awkward. So, like I said, but sometimes what happens is once the relationship is over, facts about the relationship and messages that were sent back and forth. And again, we live in a different time. When I did this, was like 1995, so a long time ago. But now, people are dating, they send pictures, they message. There's all these paper trails and evidence of things that transpired in the relationship. And people are bringing those things to leadership, to management, to human resources, and now saying things like, I don't feel comfortable working with this person anymore. And so that's the kind of stuff you got to be really careful about. Now, in organizations where I've also seen where there have been couples, and I knew a lot of people who were married, for instance, within the USDA. But what typically would happen as someone elevated into leadership, they would make arrangements, or the other person would do exactly as Matthew stated and leave the organization, go to a sister organization, create some separation. So I'm not telling you to do or not to do, right? Like I said, there's a quote that says, don't get your honey where you get your money," and there's a reason for that. And having experienced it, I can agree with it now. But we fall for who we fall for, and I do also know people who fell for people at work who intentionally left in order to ensure that there was no conflict. But what I will say is this: if you are going to date in the workplace, tread lightly. Like, be careful with your messaging, be careful with how you connect. And I know you think it's love in the beginning and everybody's all happy, but always ask yourself this question. Now, again, for those of you who know DISC, right, I'm a high C. So I'm always thinking about the legal side and what else might happen. Ask yourself, when this is over, will anything that I've said or done during this season be a bad reflection of me and or negatively impact my career? And if you can say no, then go for it, right? Because like life happens and you just never know who you're going to fall in love with. So I am definitely a proponent of love, okay? Just ask somebody. I'm a sucker for a love story. However, I'm also very passionate about my career. I'm also very passionate about my reputation. And we say and do things with people we're in more intimate relationships with that we don't need the general public or want them to know. And you just never know how people are going to feel about you, as the saying goes, after the love is gone. So think about it, tread lightly, and protect yourself. Hey, this has been Angela Hooper-Menifield with your HR moment from Menifield and Associates. And if you got other questions about whether it's this topic, relationships in the workplace, or just topics in general, feel free to add me, send me a message, because I like to talk about the things that the people want to hear about. So thanks for watching. If you catch it on the replay, leave me some comments. Let's have a dialogue. And if I'm not the only one who's ever been complicit and guilty of dating in the workplace, let's talk about it, right? Like, I married my coworker. I did. Had a child with him. Like I said, I have a 26-year-old daughter with my former coworker. So again, we were married, but it happens, and we were divorced in 4 years. So that's my story. You live and learn, right? So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.